Okay, so we're recording. Um, so let's start off by saying hello.
How are
Thank you.
you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Well, we have this plan issue, but besides that, I'm doing fine.
Good. Um, yeah, so I'm glad that we get to spend a little bit of time on the phone. We've been experiencing some issues here at Phillips. I know that you guys have a Crawley as well. So hopefully you and I can get some things figured out and, work together to prevent the VP of operations from coming in and starting asking questions that may be difficult for both of us to answer.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I too have a goal here of not wanting to have this escalated outside of you and I because I think it will reflect poorly on both of us.
Yeah, agreed.
Um, and just for the record, I'm Justin Niznik, and I'm playing the role of Crowley, and you are Daniel Rosenberg, and you're playing the role of Phillips, correct?
Correct. Yeah, so just
I,
each other's real names because I didn't have a name for you other
yeah.
than Crawley Plant Manager.
No,
Oh,
that's what I. So I think we can just go by
yeah.
Phillips and Crowley, or to make it simple.
Okay.
Um, so um, I can tell you, maybe it will help us start with. I am going to be blunt and honest with you, and I think that having my plant accept the cost of repairing all the faulty parts is ridiculous. I'm angry about that, but I want to work towards a solution. I want to understand your position.
So here for let's back everything up. So here's the first thing that I need to understand because I'm not really even sure how it works. Um,
Okay.
I would like to know how it is that you measure quality because from my perspective, I just want to learn what the other side of the coin is because from my perspective, what I'm seeing is I have 42 modules that I get from you, but there's 12 of them where the quality is not meeting the expected 95%. So I guess first of all, I want to know how do you guys measure quality so we understand where the differences lie.
That's it. That's. I'm glad that you brought that up. That gives me a lot of information to work, or some better information to work with. The way that we understand Crowley, the way it works is that the overall level of modules that are sent to you have to be at 95%. So I guess if there was 100 modules shipped to you, that 95 or above are working properly. And so from our perspective, overall, all modules shipped to the Philips plant are above the 95% level. So
Okay.
we think we're complying with the company policy. However, I am concerned about these 12 modules, and I want to work with you to address that. So I'm not opposed to trying to find a solution to solve that issue. But I didn't know anything about this 42. That's news to me.
Okay, so
I knew about the 12, but I didn't know out of what sample size. If that helps you.
okay, so here's essentially the trouble that I'm running into. Okay, so I have 12 modules that I'm having a lot of quality issues with. For the sake of argument, let's just call them modules 30 through 42. Um, and the quality on them is all over the place. The majority of the time, it's way below 95%, like down towards the 70s to 80%. And what's happening is I end up having a lot of either downtime because I'm not having enough parts to supply my production line,
Mm-hmm.
or I end up having a lot of overtime and having a lot of rework. I'm having a lot of complaints from end users, from our customers, our final customers. So I've started to have aside from having two final inspection points, I now have an inspection point on supplier material. That is your material that you're supplying to me. And um, when the incoming shipment is bad enough, then we're having to reject it. So when it's not bad enough, we end up putting it off to the side, and we will use all the material that it's good. When I run out of good material, I'll go to the bad pile and start plucking away at that, fixing it, and then using it in my production line. Right now, there's about $15,000 worth of parts that are not suitable for production, but it's just a stockpile of bad product that I have that is not good enough to use now. But if I put people to it and give them overtime, then they'll be able to do it. So I've been spending a lot of money on overtime, on multiple levels of inspection, and on customer complaints. So if you and I can work to figure out, number one, I would like us to figure out, all right, so how are we measuring quality? Is the 95% across all 42 modules, or is it going to be individual modules that are 95? So that's one decision we have to make. The other decision is when quality falls below the 95%, how we're going to split these costs. And then final is the $15,000 worth of parts that are sitting, how we're going to manage that. Now, honestly, my main concern is providing good computers to our end customers. So if that means that Philips has to eat the cost of the 15,000 for a suitable or a long-term pricing structure between you and I, then I would be more than willing to eat that. If what I would like to do, my ideal scenario would be 95% across each individual module, and then from 100 down to 95, you and I split the cost of bad parts, and anywhere below 95, then that would be on you.
Okay. That sounds below would be on me. All right. That sounds pretty reasonable. So one thing that has been perplexing me, and I want to make sure I get this factually correct, is that we can't figure out at Crowley why the parts are showing up at your plant in a faulty way, because when they leave my plant, they check out, and I actually have I have an inspection that occurs before I ship. Do you have any information about how are these getting damaged in transit, or who actually is it? Is an internal? Is it a Crowley truck that's driving it there, or is it a Phillips? I mean, that is a little unclear to me, but that is something that is puzzling us at Crowley.
Okay. So I would have to check with our quality people. I don't have any information as to any possible in transit damage. The only information that I have is that we are receiving on these specific 12 modules, the quality is poor. So would doing some kind of inter-plant sharing of information, perhaps even of employee best practice, be possible, so that if I send a guy over there, when you guys are doing your packaging or your final inspection, so that he would be on, I would hate to be sending somebody over there to double up work, because that doesn't really sound efficient. But maybe as an interim stopgap kind of measure, so we figure out what the issue is, and then we are able to identify between you and I where we're having these failures. If it's maybe it's packaging, maybe it is shipment, maybe it's unboxing, whatever it may be. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. I'm okay with you sending somebody to my plant. I also can offer. I would like, if we're going to have an issue of rejection, instead of you rejecting it and me eating the costs, I would be more inclined to have somebody at your plant, a repair person or team of repair people at Phillips. So if it drops below the 95 level, and I think even prior to that, I don't know why we wouldn't, we would just repair it right on site for you right there.
That sounds excellent.
Is there any, so that that's fine with you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's pencil that in as we're definitely going to do that. As there's going to be at least at any one time there's going to be at least one Crowley repair person at Phillips that addresses that issue. Let's see here. So the other things we're talking about are what essentially happens. So, and your main thing you need is a 95. You want. So my understanding is, I think the way this is working, as we've talked, is that if I'm 100% on modules 1 through 29, there's no defects whatsoever. But I'm 70 to 80% on the other 12. That's unacceptable to you. Although I overall would be still meeting the 95% of stuff shipped to you. That's
correct. So if you're at 99.9%, actually I ran the numbers on this earlier today. So if you're at 99.9% good product on modules 1 through 30, then, or actually, 1 through 29, then you could have quality of 82% on modules 30 through 42, and you would still be, the average would work out to 95% first pass yield. Now, technically, one could say, and I'm speculating now, but you could be running 100% on modules 1 through 37 or 38.
Right.
You could have quality of 5 to 10% on modules, 38 through 42. So that's why I think that the true intent of the 95% first pass yield should be on an individual module basis, not as as an aggregate average of all 42 modules.
Because essentially, if you don't have any modules that are working right, if it's that low, then that makes it difficult for you to complete your mission.
Right. I need all 42 modules to be able to put together a computer. So if one of them is operating at 0%, even if the other 41 of them are operating at 100%, I still have 100% of my product not be acceptable to the end customer.
Okay. Well, it looks to me like that seems, I understand, and I want obviously the company to be successful, and if overall, if I'm shipping you things that are slowing down this whole process, I understand. So your proposal was, we measure quality at all 42 must be at a 95% or better. Is there any way that we can bump that down and you tell me to like 90% for all the 42 across the board, because I don't want to agree to something that I'm not going to be able to deliver to you. Or does it have to be 95% of each of the 42?
So I I have to have 95% throughput. In that sense, I do need the 95. But
Okay. All right.
I'll make a deal. Let's just set up a little timetable. All right. So either 2 to 4 weeks. I'll put a guy at your plant. You put a guy at mine. So
Okay.
we'll have like a period during which we're kind of getting to know each other's process a little bit better.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that we first got to find out where these failures are happening, because if you're shipping them out and they're checking off on your quality and they're not on mine, then the first thing we need to do is understand where the differences lie. So if your concern is not being able to deliver on the 95%, then let's do 90% for, let's say, 2 weeks. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, as of right now, we'll plan on 95. Maybe we'll be even higher. I don't know. We'll have to see when we get there. But essentially, I just want us to be able to be comfortable with everything we're agreeing to.
Okay. I think that sounds reasonable. I do have to tell you, let me see here. I want to make sure is that that I think it's way out of line. That I cannot accept an arrangement where I have to absorb overtime costs for delayed production.
Okay.
So caused by shortages. So I'm flexible on other things, but on that I'm unbending.
Okay.
What can we do with in terms of the rest of the deal to structure it in a way that would work? I'm trying to see what else I had down here. I know you said split the costs, and then we have the 15,000. When you talked about the cost, was that your overtime costs?
Well, so I'm looking at it as a combined overtime, materials, inspections, shipments, whatever it may be. Now, on the initial thought that I had blurted out, I said that I would eat the 15,000 worth of parts that are sitting over here.
Okay.
If we could come to the 95% and then a couple of the 95%, then we would split the cost down to there, and then you would eat the cost below that. Now, if you're telling me that you can eat overtime, well, then how about this? You take back the $15,000 worth of parts and rework them at regular time. We still do the switch where I send one guy your way, you send one guy my way.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the 2 weeks, we'll have the 90% quality. At the end of those 2 weeks, we'll move up to the 95 after we have our lessons learned. And then as far as overtime, since you're taking the 15,000 worth of parts that are here, then I'll take the overtime for my employees to do rework until we meet the 95% quality objective.
Okay. And then long term, how would we work that out? So, is there a way to split it? So I know you want to split the costs if we're not meeting the 95, but there would be a way that you could let's see here. Because I'm also, I think I said that it says here the cost of repairing all the faulty parts, all faulty parts is ridiculous. So I guess I have some leeway. So it maybe be long term, maybe the cost of materials. It doesn't give us a breakdown, but maybe if I cover 50% of the cost of materials, you could cover 50% of the cost if we don't meet the 95, and then but you have to cover your overtime. Would that be acceptable?
So I cover my own overtime. Yeah, I wouldn't expect you to cover the Phillips plant overtime.
Okay.
once we are at the 95% level. So let's just say a month from now, the quality is at 93%.
Okay.
So the first 5% from 100 down to 95, you and I split that equally. And then from 95 down to 93, because that is below the quality expectations of 95, my thought would be that it would fall on the Crawley team.
For all costs, overtime, and material?
Correct.
Okay. The only thing I can't do, it says, I'm saying, is I am not amenable in any way, shape, or form to covering any overtime costs of your employees. However, if there's some other way we can work the numbers.
Okay. So I would say if the quality is below 95%, then we would take the 95% of the parts of the shipment and then send the bad parts back to you for rework. So you're working them on regular time, but then I don't end up having to deal with an unfair amount of bad product.
Yeah, I think that works. So essentially, if I'm at 93% in a month, hypothetically, then first step is those 2%. I'll try to have my guy at your plant fix them right there, so don't have to come back to my plant. If they don't, if for some reason we have to fix them back at Crowley, then I will take the 2% back to Crowley at the very least, to get myself back up to 95. So you don't have to cover any overtime below the 95 percentile, and your plan can work. You can go on. If you want to pay people overtime to hit even higher levels, that's on you. But that seems like it's a workable deal. So I guess the only thing we need to do is probably just write this down. In some way, shape, or form.
Right. So I have our sheet here.
Okay.
So let's just go one by one and make sure that we're all 100%. We'll take a couple of minutes to write down the thought, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
I think we're good. Hey.
Yeah.
That sounds like a plan.
Okay, so expenses of repairing faulty modules other than the percent level. I don't think that we're not having issues with those. Have been. I would say that doesn't matter which module it is. If it's the original 30 or the other 12, we are agreeing to a solution that.
I don't know. I didn't pull up my form, right? But I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if maybe put not applicable or.
I don't know. I didn't pull up my form, but I don't know. I don't know if maybe put not applicable or.
Well, you know what? We'll just rehash it one more time, and then we don't necessarily have to follow the form. I'll word it in a way that makes sense. So for the 100 down to 95, I am taking care of any of that. As far as the repair expense,
yep.
Or no, we're splitting the repair expense from 100 down to 95, right?
Yep.
And then from 95 down to 93,
right?
Your guy here is going to repair any of that.
Right.
And then we have what else am I missing?
You're gonna have somebody at my plant.
You're gonna have somebody at my plant.
Yep. Until we figure out what
we're gonna have a 2-week grace period of 90%.
What the difference in understanding is?
We're going to have a 2-week grace period of 90%.
Hold on one second. Okay. And then the $50,000 worth of parts, I'm shipping those back to you.
Okay.
So you guys can go and,
Yep.
and rework those.
I'm not paying for any overtime costs
Yep.
of your people,
I'm not paying
let's see here.
for any overtime costs
Correct.
Except
of your people,
yeah.
And let's see here.
Yeah, more and
You're accepted.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, more and I think that's it.
Okay, excellent.
All right.
Okay, awesome.
All right.
So it has been a pleasure. I'll write this up and get it over to you. Actually, let me stop recording here.